All right, welcome back to the Hotel Orloff. We're listening to the Han River Angels, Korean band from the 60s. You can listen to them on YouTube. Show you. Oh, so, what do we got? Definitely. You need to listen to your Uncle Gratu and listen to the Han River Angels. Well, I was trying to show you last episode what we were listening to and accidentally turned off the phone recording. All right, so whatever. So we start over again. So I was showing you some I showed you some horror comics. I showed you some romance comics last episode. And now I'll attempt to show you a comic I just started to show you. These are some Marvel humor comics. Marvel's not well known. I'm trying to mount this camera on a ladder. Okay, this comic, Crazy, reprints the 1960s Not Brand Eck comics. If you got the original Not Brand Eck comics, well then, there's Giant Man. Well, but you get a new cover from Marie Severin, a beautiful new cover. So Crazy, we've got 2 copies of that. You don't see it very often. I was telling you last episode that the owner in that YouTube reality show, Comic Book Heaven, he says he never sees these come into a store. This next one reprints the actual cover from the original issue of Not Brand Eck. So all you're getting really is the new masthead, the new logo, Crazy. And again, beautiful Marie Severin art. This is a fantastic Spider-Man story drawn by Marie Severin. Fantastic. I wish they just let Marie Severin draw Spider-Man like this. Instead of killing off Gwen Stacy and then making Spider-Man all depressed all the time, just let her draw the comic all through the 70s. Can you imagine after John Romita left? Okay, we'll bring in Marie Severin. There's the Wasp. This is like the Lizard. That's how the Lizard should always be drawn. Anyway, that's Crazy number 2. Fantastic. But the one that changed my life, I've told you about. Marvel Treasury Edition number 2 with the reprints of the Fantastic Four. How much I loved that and how that turned me on to the Fantastic Four and then Spider-Man and then all of the Marvel heroes like in Avalanche. I realized they're all great. Before I'd only been buying Marvel horror comics and magazines. This is our sponsor, Liquid Death. But it was a kid bringing this comic I'm about to show you to school, and I traded him for that issue, but I don't have that issue I got from him. It was probably in the worst shape I've ever seen. As Higgy Pop Comics calls it, it was in woe condition. It would make you just say, whoa, I can't believe, how could a kid treat their comic that badly? It was even skeevy just to touch it. It felt, because the guy I traded it from was notorious in my 3rd and 4th grade class for eating his own boogers. So it had been handled by, some comics, they're handled by grubby kids, and even 50 years later, 60 years, 70 years later, you can still feel the grub of the childhood fingers covered in boogers and snot, which is why I guess some people sanitize their comics and soak them and clean them, I don't know. But anyway, it was this issue of Crazy that reprints my favorite issue of Not Brand Eck. At this time, I didn't know, I figured it out that these were reprints from Not Brand Eck. But this has the origin of the Fantastic Four, done by Marie Severin, and it's right from a panel by panel parody of Jack Kirby's original story from Fantastic Four #1. You could put that right next to, reprint of Fantastic Four #1 right next to this, and panel for panel, it's except she's got like Frank Sinatra drawn into it, and there it's Ronald Reagan and Richard Nixon there at the grocery store. You got Dick Tracy getting run over here, and then you've got the Thing, Marie Severin. I cannot tell you how much I love this artist, Marie Severin. That's Lady Bird Johnson. On the first page you got James Bond. Yeah, see, there's Sean Connery as one of the policemen. There's Sammy Davis Jr. This original issue of Not Brandon. Oh, there's Uncle Creepy. She was brilliant. Brilliant, I tell you. I used to have this algebra teacher in high school. He would tell you, I cannot emphasize enough how much you need to study for this test. He would say it very dramatically, like he's William Shatner in Star Trek or something. Yes, the Han River Angels. I guess, does that qualify as K-pop? Early K-pop? Okay, and then when they introduced the Human Torch, right, he's working on it's a hot rod, but it's made like a hot dog, and he's working with the Three Stooges on this. You see that? Of course, the original comic, the kid had drawn in it. He cut out part of the cover. It just felt off, but I've later upgraded, and there's Jerry Lewis. It's panel for panel. This is Fantastic Four #1. You got to get this book. It's one of the greatest books. And then, of course, it goes back and tells you their origin. Anyway, what was my point in telling you about my algebra teacher? I cannot emphasize enough how much I love Marie Severin, and how little she is credited in. I mean, she was the colorist for EC Comics. All those EC Comics, she colored them. And John Severin, her brother, is a brilliant artist too. But I think, I don't know. I think she's even better. Look how she draws the Invisible Girl. Brilliant stuff. Anyway, of course, it's not clobbering time, it's slobbering time. But then the other thing in here is a parody of Superman, but it's a parody of, there's Ringo Starr, it's a parody of the Mort Wessinger era of Superman, so it gives you the origin of Superman, in this case, Stuperman. I need to plug my phone in. This is what caused me to accidentally turn my show off a minute ago. All right, cool. Of course, they play up the whole thing. Gosh, I put on my glasses, we can't recognize them. This is great. You got to read it. But it goes into, they have a Mort Wessinger and his assistant, and they keep making him more powerful, as I recall, and then there's a Joker appearance. How many times does the Joker appear in a Marvel comic, ladies and gentlemen? But then they have the Captain Marvel thing, Of course, then they have the dog, the cat, the Supergirl appearing, and before long, he's got this whole family tree of relatives that show up, and eventually he gets furious and goes to the DC offices and sends all his relatives off in a spaceship, only to be confronted by the Marvel, they call Marvel, the Marvel Age of Comics. All the Marvel heroes show up, and upstaged Superman. One of the great things. I can't even. So I've got I've got 3 copies of that issue because I loved it so much. Crazy was only done 3 times. I mean, it was only 3 issues. Not Brand Eck. The original comic it reprints from lasted, I think, 12. Or was it 14? I think it was only 12 issues. Then, before Crazy, Marvel had tried to do a Mad type book called Spoof. See, it's got the Mod Squad, Dark Shadows, and a parody of Marooned. And this was about 1971 when it was still, in my opinion, the Silver Age. Oh, here's one. I've got another copy that's not bagged. So, you know, you got Marie Severin. They bring her in when they want, you know, someone to draw humorous art. And it's brilliant, of course. Oh, this is when they were selling these posters. I think she does all the art. Here's some parody of Mod Squad, and does she do the Maroon parody? I mean, people remember Dark Shadows, and yeah, it looks like maybe she does all of it. People remember Dark Shadows and Mod Squad, but Marooned was a science, instead of Mod Squad, it's the Claude Squad. Marooned is a movie that I don't think people remember as much. And it was done by Stu Schwartzberg. Look at how he draws David Jansen there with the ears. That's a weird drawing there. That looks like someone in prison drew that. Anyway, that's spoof number 1. I've got 2 copies of that. Spoof number 2 came out like over a year later, maybe more than a year later, in the 20-cent era. And it's got a parody of All in the Family. And that's a Marie Severin cover with Archie Bunker. They were looking at this comic too on Comic Book Heaven when I was watching that last night, and the customer was freaking out. That's just like Mad Magazine. This is weird that they do. That's a takeoff of the movie poster for Fritz the Cat, which was it's questionable whether with Charlie Brown, and I guess this was Lucy, but it's a Comic Code approved book. Some of that cover could never be published today, I'll tell you. And then they had spoof number 3. You hardly ever see this book because people don't want it, because they're not normal like me. Normal people want these books. Here's another copy of spoof number 3. Where's my remote? Hold on a second, ladies and gentlemen. What if celebrities ran for president? It's got a parody of the Partridge Family, is what this is. It's the Part-Rich Family. What is this? It's a parody of Frogs. Remember the movie Frogs? It's Frogs. Again, Marie Severin. Frogs, what I remember Frogs mostly for was the amazing movie poster with a frog with a human hand coming out of its mouth. That stuck with me. It was used as the front cover of Famous Monsters of Filmland. That's what I mostly remember. And I remember Frogs as a Famous Monsters cover that was it sticks with you when you see a frog with a human hand coming out of its mouth when you're in 2nd grade. It really does. Yes, indeed. Yeah, so, yes, indeed, spoof. Then here's spoof number 4, Marie Severin. Apparently, we got a parody of Blackula and Marcus Welby, MD. Again, wonderful art from Marie Severin. Now, there's a whole book you can get of about Marie Severin that was put out by, I think, by Tomorrow's Publications. Not all the art is by Marie Severin. It's Blackula. Now, in the early 70s, Blackula was the first. Well, there was the blaxploitation trend, and it started in the early 70s. There was Superfly and Shaft. Shaft hit really big, and Shaft was kind of like supposed to be like a black James Bond, and he had several sequels. And there was even a Shaft TV series, I'm pretty sure. It didn't last too long. But they did a black Dracula, and they called him Blackula. And it was played by William Marshall, who later was the king of cartoons in Pee-wee's Playhouse. And then, so it's a parody of that. And it actually predicts something that happened at the end. Look at Blackula. He turns first into the dead Groucho Marx, then Howdy Doody, and then and then he's Walter Cronkite. Yeah. But they're predicting what's going to happen next, which pretty much did happen. There was a Black Frankenstein. It was called Blackenstein. Okay, and then they had Dr. Black and Mr. Hyde, Blackenstein, and but here they're predicting Tarzan, Lone Ranger, Superman, Bride of Frankenstein, and Hunchback. So anyway, spoof. Then we get to, oh shoot, there's a long story behind this next one. Oh. Do I only have one copy of this one? There's a long story behind spoof number 5 that is the Night Gallery parody. It's called Nut Gallery. There's Teddy Kennedy, Joe Namath, and Woody Allen. Nightmarish paintings. And this issue is about everything in here is post-apocalyptic after a nuclear war. Okay, this friend of mine that lived a walking distance from my house, and I'd go visit him all the time because he was also interested in comic books and monsters and Star Trek. He had a collection of comics, and I did too, and we both liked to draw, and I'd go over to his house, and we'd draw, we'd make our own comic books. Well, I traded things. I think I got a Famous Monsters from him once. This music's too loud. I traded to get a early issue of Fear. One of those square-bound Marvel horror books, Fear. I think Fear number 2. And I traded him for that. I don't know if I traded or paid him. I probably paid him for them, right? So I traded him for this copy of spoof number 5. Then one day I looked for my spoof number 5 and it's gone. I think I was over at his house after I traded him, and I was looking, and he had another spoof number 5. And then I went back to my house, and my spoof number 5 was gone. And he'd been in my house, and apparently after he sold it to me or traded or whatever we did, and this is a memory of 1974, so I'm sorry if the details are a little unclear. But apparently after we made the deal, he must have had regrets and just grabbed it and snuck it home. So I said, hey, this is my copy of Spoof. And somehow it got, it wasn't, I don't remember what happened, but I remember his dad came over and talked to my dad. And anyway, I got the copy of Spoof back. But after that, I was never allowed back into his room. Whenever I went over there to draw, we would draw at the kitchen table. The mom apparently didn't want anything. It was like I wasn't the guilty one, but she just didn't want any more problems, I guess. And then somehow it had gotten back to the mom that I had said something about, because when we went to his house, we took our shoes off because his mom was Japanese. His dad was a serviceman that had married a Japanese woman, and I said something about, it's unusual, different, that we take off. Anyway, somehow I guess he must have said to his mom, he thinks it's weird that we take off our shoes when we come. I didn't say that. I don't think I said that. I don't think I would have, even at that age, have been that insensitive. But anyway, somehow it had gotten, because she mentioned something about it. I don't know. So anyway, I don't know. I never saw him again after 1975, because back then when you moved to another part of the country, you lost touch with people because there was no internet. You could write a letter to someone and put a stamp on it. What fourth grade, fifth grade kid does that? You can't call, because even back then, if you were to call 20 miles away, you had to pay long distance fees, and talk for 5 minutes, you might get a $25 charge, and your parents are flipping out. Now people can talk to people in England for hours and hours on the phone. People don't realize how back then distance was greater. Now everything's so close. So anyway, I lost touch with my good friends there in San Antonio, and I later looked him up. I sent him a friend request a few years ago. He didn't respond, so maybe he's still chapped about that from 1974. But it's weird. He was really into Star Trek and Mr. Spock, and he later became real important science teacher, So whatever. He was a good guy, great artist. And right about that same time, around 1974, 75, Marvel tried humor again with ARG, and this time they're trying to make it like DC's Plop. But they started it right about the time that Plop was starting to fail. So this comic only lasted a few issues, but it's wonderful. These are Marvel's attempts to do humor. They also started up a black and white magazine called Crazy that was made more like Mad Magazine. But they did it a little more, at least initially, they made it a little more adult, where it almost felt a little more like National Lampoon, and there was stuff in there that really wasn't child appropriate. And then after a while, they just made it, they made it stupider, and it became more, not like Mad, but more like Sick. Okay. Uh-oh, this song sounds like it's copywritten. Where's my remote? Did I leave it over there? What's wrong with me? Yeah, so, Marvel, had a magazine called Crazy that was, so they did two separate Crazies, and of course Marvel also tried to imitate Mad back in the 50s, when Mad first started with EC. Okay, here's ARG number 5. Here's Harvey number 4. This is obviously Marvel trying to do Archie comics. And pretty well. I mean, it looks like an Archie comic. You got to hand it to him. Of course, so this is when the Ghost Rider first started. You could have spent your 20 cents on that, or on a copy of Harvey. But I wouldn't have looked down on you if you'd bought Harvey instead. It's Schwartzberg and Scarpelli doing a very good Archie House style. I got another copy and another copy. But this is, I spent a little bit of money on this. This one is just absolute, pretty close to mint. Harvey number 5. Look at that. Beautiful colors. Well, I'll go ahead and, I was hiding the price. I bought this back in Dallas at Duncanville Books, which technically it's Duncanville, which is a suburb of Dallas. They had a bunch of issues of Harvey, and they were expensive. $20, $35, but they were in really good shape, and you don't see Harvey ever, and you don't see Harvey in this kind of condition. I mean, it's not mint. There are some problems with it. It's just that the colors are so pretty. But they had a $20 price tag on it. I think I got a discount. But this, I wish I would have gotten all of them if the prices were more reasonable. But this one with the monster movie and everything, it just spoke to me, and I had to get it. And I don't know, I think I got some kind of discount on the 20. I don't know. But it's sometimes you just gotta pull the trigger to get the grail, man, right? You pull the trigger. I'm gonna send it off to CGC tomorrow. I think it's gonna be a 9.2, but everyone else thinks it's gonna be a 9.1. But I'm gonna show them it's gonna be a 9.2. I bought this when I was a little kid at the 7-Eleven, Hampton, Virginia. It's Little Pals #1. It's reprints of old Funny Animal comics. It's great. And I bought the next issue. Yeah, I sure did. And then I didn't get 3, but I got 4. So I'm missing number 3. So 3 is a grail for me. Oh my God. And then I got number 5. I'm just like, you never see this. When do you ever see this? Seriously. I got this at Duncanville Books because of the sticker. Yeah. The heck? Okay. I guess Little Pals. Yeah. Little Pals must have become Little Kids. And because they're reprinting not just Funny Animal stories, but little kid stories here. I've got 2 copies of that. And then Little Kids number 8. Another copy of number 8. What time is it, man? It's almost 5. Is that right? It's almost 5:30. That's number 9. That's probably the most of these comics you'll ever see in one place ever, because most people don't care about them, to be honest with you. This one's not. Let's look at this one, just in case you're curious. It's got Little Lizzie. And it's got these comics that look very antique. I mean, they got stuff that looks like it was really created for the Sunday newspapers. A Little Aspirin. This is very strange. You know, it's like stuff that's obviously imitations of other comics. It's like Little Lulu kind of imitations. I'm pretty sure Little Lizzie was Marvel's Little Lulu. And it says copyright 1957. But listen, in 1972, when this is coming out, this looks very And I'm not saying old-fashioned is bad, because, I love old stuff. So to me, this looks great. Little Lenny. It just, I think any kid looking at this knows this looks like something from your parents' day. And it's reproduced so small that you really have to have good eyes to read it. Anyway, just kind of a strange anomaly, strange phenomena that these comics exist. But Marvel was just trying to print anything they could, as many comics as they could, to flood the stands and overwhelm DC. So they even printed stuff like this. They were pulling everything out of they were opening up the drawers of every filing cabinet, pulling out art to try to find stuff because Marvel had been constrained in how many titles they could put out there until 1968. And then in the early 70s, both companies were trying to dominate the market. And it wasn't just Marvel and DC. You were also competing with Gold Key and Charlton and whatever company put out Dennis the Menace. I think that was that and Gold Key, yeah, Charlton. Who am I leaving out? The spinner rack was very full in those days. Oh, I left the Love Story comic out. I promised to show some Vampirella books, but I'll have to do that tomorrow. Love Story. I guess I'll show some of this stuff tonight on the 4-Color Fossils. Why the heck not? I think some people, I'm not sure, I guess there's a certain crossover of people that watch both 4-Color Fossils in this show. Yeah. How about that, ladies and gentlemen? Liquid Death, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, we need music. Okay. Oh, I've been moving things around, but I can't find the hammer, man. Moving some pictures around. I misplaced my hammer. So. Okay. Let's start shutting the lights down, because it's getting to be that time, ladies and gentlemen. Time to. Actually, I think we're gonna have hot dogs tonight. Hot dogs. Oh, what are we listening to? It's called Baghdad Daddy. What channel is it? Oh, this is a great channel called Sunny Boy 66. See up there, and he has all kinds of stuff. This is Reba Dabadoo, Tough Chicks, Volume 1, 50s and 60s rock and roll. There's all kinds of people. If you know where to look, you can find all kinds of great music on YouTube. And look at this, USSR in the Garage, 60s and 70s beat psychedelic rock. Where else can you hear psychedelic music from Russia but on Sunny Boy 66's channel? Locked into surf and rock and roll instrumentals. Okay, there's all kinds of stuff. Amazing. Look at this stuff. It's unbelievable what you will hear. Yeah, there's some great stuff on here. Absolutely. Weird Visions.
Make the scene with the rebels, the hippies who think that flower power rules over everything and everybody. Psych out.
Weird Visions
Presents the hallucinatory
for your ears.
flower children as they parade up
All right.
on the streets of San Francisco's Haight-Ashbury district. Psych Out was filmed entirely on location.
So how are you guys doing, ladies and gentlemen? On this wonderful Wednesday, June 21st, 2023, in the year of our Lord. Okay. Gotta clear off these pinball machines. All right. Gotta get that hat straight, mister. Not proper regulation. Oh boy. So how are you guys doing this wonderful Wednesday? Okay. I should get ready and see. I don't want to. Oh, I know. I need to get on the computer and make sure that I can. Because if I try to. Oh, I got to clean that table off. Gosh darn it. Gotta get some paper towel and clean that table off, set the computer down, and then I can go on live streaming with the Four Color Fossils tonight. So get some paper towel because we've been eating on that table, and I'm kind of a slob sometimes. So we're going to enter the Spook House, ladies and gentlemen. This painting is courtesy of Lance Laurie, famous painter. Going down into the basement. Okay. Paper toweling, that's right. I think we should